future is now.
Hi, everyone. Cheryl Cran here for the next episode of the Next Now podcast. And I want to talk about strategy, but not from that high level place of, strategy as a concept, but more around strategy as an embedded behavior throughout every employee in the organization. So, of course, most organizations have a strategic plan. They've flushed out that strategic plan to have pillars or segments. And they've senior leadership has sat down and kind of said, okay, I know what my initiatives are. But when we talk about really company-wide embedding of a strategy, that's where we execute on the strategic plan. So it's not just a document that we've come to agreement with for the next 3 to 5 years or whatever that time frame is, or even 1 year, depending on how you do your strategies. But it's really about a communication platform document from my perspective. So if you're using your strategy in the highest level possible for driving the success of the organization, but also as a tool for every employee to succeed, then to me, that's an embedded strategic plan that's working throughout the organization. So, for example, when you build that strategic plan, you need to have a focused day or 2 or 3 days, depending on the size of your executive team, on really execute. What's the execution of the plan? So what are the actions within the subheader actions? What are we doing individually in order to make sure that plan happens? And are we looking at it on a year by year basis? So rather than just looking at that 5-year plan and throwing all the strategic initiatives in the second, third, and fourth year, it's getting really clear about what do we want to execute on this year? And then what's going to follow into the next year? And then having regular communication cycles around it. So for example, if you're having a strategic retreat or had one already to execute on 2023, you want to really be looking at how do I take back my personal action plan and as a leader, and then how do I communicate that with my teams so that they all know what strategy means to them. So it's one thing for the leader to come back from a strategic planning session and say, okay, this is where we're going and this is what we're doing. But it's much more powerful if rather than be prescriptive in how we come back from those meetings and those planning sessions, is that we do a number of things. So first of all, I would say primarily, even before the senior leadership team or the group that meets for strategic discussion and execution meets, we need to do crowdsourcing. So we do need to include people and ask for their input. Now that can be a very simple 5-question survey that just says, what do you align with the strategic plan? Do you know what it means for you in your work? Yes or no? Because that gives a lot of insight. And then the next question can be, do you understand how strategy relates to your particular job? Yes or no? And then further to that, asking them what they need from the strategic plan in order to be more successful. So some of those responses might be, I need more clarity. Or some of the responses might be, I need my boss to communicate with me more clearly and more regularly. So that's all really valuable insight that helps form the dialogues of those strategic execution discussions. But then the communication piece is absolutely critical throughout in order to embed a strategic plan successfully. So then during the retreat, we want to make sure we're capturing in a project timeline manner all of the action items that we've agreed to. And we also, when I said earlier about prescriptive, we want to make them about what's the next communication or conversations I need to have. So for example, if you're doing a major initiative in your IT department, it's not so-and-so needs to do this and so-and-so needs to do that. You're leaving that strategic planning session with the dialogues you need to have. So for example, I need to meet with the head person, the service manager around tickets and ticket processing. And in that meeting, we need to clarify X, Y, Z. So it's really about who are the conversations you need to have, who are they with, and what is it that you want to get out of that conversation. So that's engaging people in strategic dialogue rather than telling them about the strategic plan and what it means for them. Very big difference. And actually research has shown that if you engage the employees in the strategic dialogues, they actually have an 86% increase in really understanding their role in planning and executing on strategy. So then the other piece is once you've come back from that strategic planning session, execution session, you want to actually meet with your direct reports and you want to share with them at a high level, what did you walk away with from that retreat? What is the group focused on? Why you're excited about the CEO's vision for the year? Why you're excited about the senior leadership team working together? Really sharing that motivation and excitement around, hey, this meeting was worthwhile because we got clarity, we got understanding, understanding. We got greater communications structures and strategies coming down the pipeline. And then from there, you do want to, in your one-on-ones, and I'm assuming when I share this with you, for those of you who've been following and listening and are clients of mine, you know that I'm a huge advocate of regular and consistent one-on-one conversations with your team members. And that can be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, depending on the size of your team. But it is critical to have those one-on-ones that are focused on performance discussions, because performance is not just an annual process. It's something that is in these dialogues, these one-on-ones that build towards that enhanced performance capacity that we're looking for. So in your one-on-ones, what you want to do is when you meet with your individual team members that report to you, you want to say to them, here's what the strategy means to me. What does it mean to you based on this information that I'm sharing with you? And again, you want to have that dialogue. And then you also want to engage that team member to say, do you see where you fit in this strategy given what I've just shared? And then use that one-on-one time to really clarify, like, what does it mean in their role? What does it mean in the way that they deal with their customers? What does it mean in the way that they deal with their peers? What does it mean in the way that they deal with their other departments? And so we want to build that bridge and really leapfrog off of the strategic planning dialogues, execution dialogues, to really embed it in our conversations with everybody in the organization. If we're doing that, people feel that direct connection. They do feel it and they perform to it. And the other thing about linking strategic dialogue with an employee discussion in a one-on-one is it directly ties into the performance dialogues. So you can have a one-on-one meeting with someone and say to them, let's say it's somebody in the customer service department. And you can say to them, look, our strategic goal for customer service is that we are going to increase customers' ease of using our technology to do business, or increase their ease of being able to interact with us. That's a high level strategic. And then we could say to this person that's on our team in customer service, so what does that mean to you? And they might go, oh, well, in the survey, I said we need to have an improved platform for our customers. Okay, great. Until we have that, what does it mean in the way that we engage with our customers? How can we direct them to the tools? What tools do we already have, but our customers aren't knowledgeable about, not aware of? Maybe they've forgotten. So again, it leverages everything because it helps us clarify existing resources. It helps us clarify where we want to focus our attention. It helps us clarify the linkage of strategy to every single person in the organization. So the opportunity for you listening to this particular session of the podcast is to think about this. And I have a few questions for you. And depending on your role, the answers will be unique to your role as you're listening. But if you're in a senior leadership role listening to this right now, the question I'd have for you is, have you communicated the strategy from your level of knowledge to your team members in a one-on-one? And have you linked it to performance? Another question I'll have for you, have you as an organization met with all the senior leaders and the stakeholders of the strategic plan and help clarify the communication between departments and clarify the who does what and clarify the impact on the teams? Another question I'll have for you is, have you dealt with some of the elephants in the room? In other words, when we speak again about customer service, maybe one of the biggest elephants in the room is you're still going through the transition phase of your technology. Well, then we need to address that, and we need to identify the pain points, and we need to empathize with them. But then we need to help everybody elevate to, yes, this is a temporary situation, and here's how we can deal with the current challenges, and here's how we can make it better as we move forward. So a lot of times when we talk about strategy, it can become this concept that is dry and people can feel disconnected to it. But if we're actually doing a great job of embedding strategy, we're making it emotional, we're making it meaningful, and we're linking it to every individual's impact and input within the organization. I'm going to talk further in future episodes about strategy and what that means for different departments. But for this particular episode, I wanted to really just get you to think about how is you and your organization, or how are you and your organization really leveraging communication and clarity in order to embed that strategic plan throughout the organization. And it's never too late. It doesn't matter whether you've had a planning session last fall for 2023 or you had one in January. Wherever you are, it's an opportunity to start now about increasing that clarity and communication piece. Because honestly, organizations that have strategy embedded, that every person in the organization understands where they fit, those organizations are winning in the competitive advantage. They're winning in employee retention and engagement. So there's huge motivation as to why we need to do this. I hope this session and this podcast was helpful for you. Thanks so much for joining. We'll see you soon.